Hello everyone and welcome to the Port of Palm Beach. I'm Yeremi Farinas, the Port's Public Information Officer. On this episode of Import Export Your Port, we're going to show you how the port, along with its local, state, and federal partners, work together to maintain a safe and efficient operation. If you have ever visited the Port of Palm Beach, there's a good chance you were in the public areas, such as the Maritime Office Complex here on my right, where the Board of Commissioners meet every third Thursday of the month. Or the cruise terminal, where passengers embark on the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise cruise ship. But a majority of the port's 165 acres are located within a restricted operations area. Let's head over to the port's main security gate so I can show you how authorized personnel gain access to the restricted area. We are outside the port's main security gate located on MLK Jr. Boulevard. Here's where most of the trucks hauling cargo enter and exit the port. Let's go inside the guard shack to speak with our Director of Security, Rick Laceres. Hello, Security Officer Palmer. Hi, Rick.
Good. Hi,
How are
doing?
you?
Fantastic.
Great.
Fantastic.
So this is one of the busiest security gates here at the port.
Yes, it is. The busiest.
Okay, tell us, how do we know who is verified to enter the restricted area?
Okay, so before I answer that question, this is a full access control gate. And what does that mean? That means that the officer here has cameras covering the entire port. He can take a look to see if anything's going on that's irregular. In addition to that, he has the marine radio that he can track vessels coming in and out of the port. And also we have the security radio, which is an 800 megahertz radio where he can communicate if there's an issue, get a hold of security. So to your question on who accessed the port, we use what's called a TWIC badge. This is our primary credentials to come into the port. It's Transportation Workman's Identification Credentials. Say that 3 times.
I know, really fast.
So Officer Palmer's primary responsibility is when a person swipes the badge, he's going to go to our access control system and the picture comes up of the individual and his information on where he should be going on the port. He also looks at the individual swiping the badge to match it to the picture, to make sure that individual is in fact the person using the badge. However, if they don't have a TWIC badge, we're going to give them an opportunity to get a visitor badge, which allows them to still do business at the port, but those people are usually 1 or 2 visits. They don't require a TWIC badge. And I'll be able to show you the visitor badging office right now.
Let's go.
So, welcome to the visitor badging office where things happen here in terms of the visitor badge and activating TWIC badges.
So if someone needs clearance to come into the restricted area, they've gone to the main security gate, they don't have the proper document or TWIC card, they come here. What happens? What do you require from them?
Okay, so we take their driver's license and we scan the driver's license in order to generate a visitor badge. However, even though they get the visitor badge, because you mentioned restricted area, they're still not allowed in the restricted area. We have a secure area where they're allowed to access. If they need access to the restricted area, require someone with a TWIC badge, and it's usually security or one of the tenants, to escort that individual on and off the port.
Okay, and when you talk about the TWIC activation, does that mean somebody who is now going to be delivering cargo to the port, they got to come here and get it verified in person?
So great question. So we have truckers that are from Miami, first time visit, they have TWIC badges because they have access to the Miami port. So in order for them to have access here, yes, they have to come in here. We have to scan their TWIC badge so it gets picked up in our access control system. Once that's done, they, depending on where they need to access to, we'll give them access only to that area. So if it's a restricted area, we give it to them. If it's not, if it's a secure area, we give them the secure area. But it requires the TWIC badge.
And coming up, we'll take a look at the agencies that play a vital role in port security. Welcome back to Import, Export, Your Port. Director of Security Rick Placeres and I have made our way down to the docks, which is a restricted area of the port. And if you hang out here long enough, you'll see a port security officer drive by every 15 to 30 minutes, especially over here in the container yard. But they're not the only ones who are ensuring we have a safe shipping hub. Rick, tell us what local, state, and federal agencies the port works with.
So locally, we have the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office Marine Unit. As a matter of fact, just recently they came out and had to pull out a deceased person out of the water. We also have Riviera Beach PD, and now they're here pretty much every day. And they deal with the cruise line passengers. If we have any issues, they'll come in. Sometimes they'll have warrants out and they'll come in and extract that individual. In addition to that, we also have our Federal Bureau of Investigations. We just recently had a cybersecurity mitigation meeting with the Executive Director, Manny Almira, and myself. And of course, we're governed by the United States Coast Guard. So we recently had that storm, Ian, okay? And they're responsible for making sure that all the ports are ready and prepared for any storm that might come our way. And lastly, just as important, is our United States Customs Border Protection Agency. They're responsible for making sure that anything imported into our ports is safe and secure. In addition to that, they do vetting of all our passengers coming back from the Bahamas. So all of these agencies are crucial to providing that port security and safety here at the port.
And for years now, the Port of Palm Beach has provided training opportunities for first responding agencies in our area. Can you give us some examples?
So we take a lot of pride in allowing our port facility and resources to be used for training, law enforcement training, first responders. And so every 18 months, the port is required to do a full-size security exercise with our partners, okay? So Operation Heat Shield encompass active shooter, hostage situation, and riot control. Now this kind of training is imperative for our law enforcement officers to have under their belts. I believe that that kind of training allows them to react to any situation, whether here at the port or in our communities. And that's one of the reasons why we take so much pride for making sure that the port, the resources of the port, can be used for all this training that's necessary for law enforcement and our fire rescue partners.
And Rick, you're a prior Marine, so you know that training is crucial to getting the job done.
Yes, so as a former Marine in the military, training allowed us to be, we use the term combat ready. So that training for our local law enforcement, for fire rescue, is necessary for them to be ready for any situation that arises here at the port or in their communities, like I said. Again, we take great pride in making sure that the resources are used for that training.
Here's a look at local fire departments conducting a crane rescue mission in the container yard operated by the port's largest tenant, Tropical Shipping.
We had developed our own plan, but realized that we needed to seek expert advice by contacting the fire department and getting their advice and help with training and trying to get an operator out in an emergency situation in the event of a fire or a medical emergency.
So the scenario is we have a crane operator up there who's actually having some type of medical event. So it's our responsibility to get him down in a safe and efficient manner.
This type of training is great because it allows us to work on our technical and tactical skills, and it allows us to work collaboratively with our community partners. So what we have here today, we have West Palm Beach Fire Rescue, we have Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, and we also have Riviera Beach Fire Rescue working collaboratively with the port to be able to do this training now before we have a real incident.
This is huge by the port allowing us to do this, because this is stuff that we're not very familiar with. You know, working around the water, working around cranes, working around big ships. So there's different safety factors that we have to put into play. There's different workarounds that we have to do as a special operations team, but that's stuff that we train on. So in order for us to be able to troubleshoot whatever event we come across, we'll be able to handle.
We wanted our employees to know that we care about what happens to them even when they're up there. We just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that they're safe.
The Port of Palm Beach also organizes other special training programs. Most recently, port employees and tenants learned how to recognize life-threatening bleeding and how to help somebody in an emergency situation. May is National Stop the Bleed Month, and the Port of Palm Beach teamed up with the Healthcare District of Palm Beach County to provide Stop the Bleed training to people working at the port.
Safety is paramount every day for you all.
Among the group of 60 who completed the training was Michael Jones, a gantry operator at Florida Sugar and Molasses Exchange Terminal located on port property.
We got, close to 20 employees over there, and we're always using heavy machineries, and there's a lot of situations you can get yourself into when you can get injured like this. These tourniquets can come in handy.
The great part about doing the training here at the port is that you already have the Stop the Bleed kits on campus. And with it, we can look at the kits. We can also identify where they're located on your campus and talk about protocols that are already in place here.
David Summers, trauma nurse outreach coordinator with the Healthcare District of Palm Beach County, has trained several thousand people in various professions in the community. But this was his first time at the Port of Palm Beach.
The main goal is to orient your employees that if they come across somebody who's bleeding, they'll have a better idea what to do. That they know that you already have product here, you already have tourniquets on campus. They know where they are, and with that, they'll know what to do if something bad happens.
The port hosted 6 classes over 2 days where Summers taught participants the ABCs of bleeding.
Alert somebody through your process or call 911. Look for bleeding, identify if it's life-threatening bleeding, and then compress the bleeding.
Summers showed them how to apply pressure, pack wounds, and deploy a tourniquet on themselves and others.
It's gonna be tight.
Security Sergeant Peter Wright says the training has prepared him for the unexpected.
We as security officers, we respond to all kinds of things every day. The training that we received in the Stop the Bleed gives us more insight and makes us more instinctive when arriving on the scene. We're hoping that we never have to use it, but in the event that we do now have more knowledge in responding.
They all integrate with each other on a daily basis anyway, and this is just one other mechanism, so now they know the other one has their back.
We are back at the Port's Operations Center with Special Projects Manager Aaron Hoffman. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
I know you're a busy man, so we appreciate you being here. And I know 2 years ago, the Port of Palm Beach became the first seaport in the country to adopt a security system called the Strax platform. Aaron, I know you played a critical role in the implementation of that system. Tell us how the Strax platform increases port security.
Well, I've been around a lot of tactical data platforms, and the Strax platform is by far the most robust and capable platform I've ever seen. For us, it allows us to share real-time video information with first responders, and that gives them up to the second situational awareness of any incidents that might be threatening the port. The port has over 100 cameras located all over the place, and they're constantly recording and viewing various areas of the port. If an incident such as a fire breaks out, for example, we can get those cameras, or the best positioned camera, to focus in on that incident, and that gives the first responders an idea before they even get here to develop a plan to combat that threat. Time is of the essence when we use first responders here, and this just saves time. It also records the incident and allows us to know what actions were taken to combat the threat.
And I know the Strax platform has other features that benefit our port community and the emergency personnel that respond to incidents at the port. Can you elaborate on those features?
We got various feeds. First of all, we're able to track vessels that come in and out of our port. This gives us a great accountability of what vessels come in, what vessels go out. And we also have the vessel tracking data system that helps us, which is the AIS, Automated Information System, which is a system developed by the Coast Guard for all commercial vessels. They have to have it on board, and that's what makes us able to track them into our port. We also have a weather map here. We also have our own weather station, which records wind direction and velocity. That helps the pilots navigate into this port knowing what the conditions are here right in the port, not offshore, but right here in the port. All in all, this platform is designed to improve response times with accurate and up to the second information video feed to the first responders, and that's a great asset to have.
And I know the platform also has access to the shot spotter system that's operated by the city of Riviera Beach?
Yeah, there's shot spotter is a triangulation of when gunshots are done, so they can position where shots are fired. For us, we have it so we can basically identify threats outside the perimeter of the port, so we can take corrective actions or shore up any weak areas of the port to make sure that it doesn't come into the port.
And since the implementation of this system here at the port, what other agencies have adopted this Strax platform?
Well, Strax has been very good about selling this and getting this platform to your law enforcement community. The Palm Beach Sheriff's Department has, for example. They just sold it out to Las Vegas, and if you recall the Bellagio incident, they now have a control on how they can manage those particular threats. And a lot of other law enforcement agencies and private industries are using it also for their security as well. So and we're the first port, and I hope many other ports will grab onto this as well.
Aaron, thank you so much for all that insight into the Strax platform.
It's my pleasure.
And coming up next, we'll take a look at how the United States Customs and Border Protection officers provide security at seaports all over the country. Welcome back. Joining me now is the United States Customs and Border Protection Port Director, David Scroggins. Mr. Scroggins, thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am.
So an important part of CBP's mission is the facilitation of legitimate trade. Tell us how CBP officers examine cargo without slowing down the flow of trade.
Okay. CBP officers use a variety of technology to include large-scale X-ray systems that can rapidly produce an image of the contents of a cargo container. Officers then compare that image against the description of the cargo to identify any anomalies or mismanifesting of the cargo. Utilizing these technologies allow officers to make quick decisions in the field and process cargo efficiently. The Customs and Trade Partnership Against Terrorism, CTPAT, is also a crucial program in the facilitation and strengthening of the supply chain. This is a public-private partnership with stakeholders, carriers, consolidators, licensed brokers, and manufacturers. These partnerships protect the supply chain by identifying security gaps and implementing security measures and practices. CTPAT members are considered to be low risk and are therefore less likely to be examined at a U.S. port of entry.
And what documents are needed to import and export goods from the Port of Palm Beach?
Okay, typically a shipment will require an invoice, bill of lading, packing list, certificate of origin, and any number of possible licenses or certificates depending on the item being shipped. Most people hire a customs broker as they are familiar with the requirements of shipping goods.
How does CBP ensure that the vessels and the crew that is here at the port is allowed to be here?
Okay. CBP receives an electronic notice of arrival and departure, which we call e-NOAD, at least 24 hours up to 96 hours depending on transit time prior to the vessel arriving into the U.S. The e-NOAD will contain information on the vessel itself as well as all crew and passengers aboard the vessel. CBP will then use a number of different systems to vet the vessel and its occupants to ensure that there are no concerns or possible threats to national security.
And some people may not know this, but CBP intercepts pests and materials that could be harmful. Can you explain to us how they do that?
Sure. CBP agriculture specialists safeguard American agriculture by preventing the introduction of harmful exotic pest plants and foreign animal diseases and potential agricultural biological terrorism into the U.S. CBP agriculture specialists are also trained to look for pathogens and similar biological entities that could be introduced into the country with live animals, international garbage, or for example, intentionally as laboratory samples for biomedical research.
While some CBP officers are focused on cargo security, others are here in the cruise terminal processing cruise passengers. Director Scroggins, tell us what documents cruise passengers need when they disembark the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise cruise ship.
Okay, for a typical closed-loop cruise, meaning the vessel departs from and arrives back to the same U.S. port with the same passengers on board, a photo ID and original birth certificate are allowed for returning U.S. citizens, although a valid U.S. passport is preferred. For returning U.S. permanent residents, they will require their U.S. issued permanent resident card, commonly referred to as a green card. Returning to the U.S. will require a valid U.S. issued visa and valid passport from their country of citizenship, with a couple of exceptions. For all other cruises, normal documentary requirements apply, meaning passports are required for everyone on board, including U.S. citizens, permanent resident cards for returning U.S. residents, and a valid visa or ESTA depending on the visitor's country of citizenship. There are some small variations to the rules that are rare to include tribal cards, U.S. military orders, and military ID, naturalization certificates, etc.
And what are some items cruise passengers are prohibited from bringing into the country?
Okay, cruise passengers mostly bring fruit and sometimes wildlife items, such as queen conch shells and coral pieces as souvenirs. Apples and oranges are prohibited from entering the U.S. from the Bahamas. Queen conch shells are allowed less than 3 shells per person or family, and hard coral pieces less than 10. Soft coral pieces are not allowed. Meat products and vegetables are regulated according to the origin and type of commodity, and you can refer to CBP's website for know before you go travel information.
Tell us how cruise passengers can expedite the process.
Okay, the best way to expedite your process through CBP is to disembark the vessel as early as possible. This will avoid you being caught up in the line buildup. Also have your documents in order, carry a passport, and be ready for the officer when he calls. Mobile passport control allows eligible travelers to submit their passport and customs declaration information through a free secure app on their smartphone or other mobile device. The use of the MPC streamlines the traveler's entry process into the U.S. by reducing passport control, inspection time, and overall wait time. The use of MPC is free and does not require pre-approval. As a result, travelers experience shorter wait times, less congestion, and efficient processing. The CBP Mobile Passport Control app is a free application that can be downloaded from the Apple App Store or Google Play, and is currently available for eligible travelers to use upon arrival. Additionally, travelers can also apply for Global Entry, which is a trusted travel program offered by CBP. which allows for expedited front of the line privilege. This is also will assist in the CBP air environment as well as with TSA and the airport security checkpoints.
Director Scroggins, I think it's obvious that a seaport would not be able to operate without the services offered by CBP. So on behalf of everybody here at the Port of Palm Beach, we want to thank you and your officers for your service. And with that, we want to thank you at home for watching this episode of Import, Export, Your Port. We'll see you next time.